All right, welcome back to the channel. We're here with Efren today again. What are we gonna do today, Efren?
Today, I'm gonna show you how to install rings onto a piston, and then how to properly lube the new bearings that I got for the for the rod, I'm sorry, and then how to install the piston into the engine. And then from there, we'll go to installation on the cam as well.
Sounds good. This is his project, the one that had the broken connecting rod.
Yeah,
so now he's getting it all ready to go.
Yep.
So if you come over here, he'll teach us a little something today.
All right. So I recently got with a friend of mine. He showed me how to clock these rings, because there is a certain way to put them in. On certain designs and certain brands, you have to install them a certain way. So as you see here, I got a piston. Now there's a notch on this piston, this little dot right here. This indicates where it's supposed to go, and usually these dots go to the front of the engine. Now if you install it backwards, it's gonna run not good at all. The reason this dot is here as well is to kind of help you how to install the rings a certain way. Now this dot will be facing toward the engine. What I do is, I know on this piston here, you use it as a guide as well, like I said. There it is. Okay, so this one's installed 6 o'clock. So with this facing forward, you want to install this, say this is 9 o'clock. All right, so you're going to want this to the top of the engine. So it's 9 o'clock on this notch. Now when you install these oil scraper rings, you always want to install it with these two little edges facing upward, not downward, because it will go through. So you want them upward like this. So here's the piston. You install it at 6 o'clock, and you just kind of just bring it around like this, and when they butt together, you'll see it right here. They're facing upward.
So from the dot, this is facing the front of the engine,
Yeah,
right? Front of the block?
Yeah, to the front of the block.
And you're putting them over here on...
Yeah, so let's say the dot's at 9 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want this gap to be at 6 o'clock.
Okay,
so you're going to look at it as a clock. So 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
All right? And that's how you do it. Now, the next ring we install. Now, on certain rings, there's some that have a design on them. They'll have like a little dot. And this one doesn't have the dot on them. So usually the ones with a dot, it'll be the bottom ring under this one, and the dot has to go facing up. But this one doesn't have it, so this one will be going, I'll use this little crosshatch, this little cross that's on here. So right here will be one angle where it's going to be installed. So what I'll do is install it underneath the ring, and you slowly feed it all the way around. You kind of expand it a little bit, and these are a little bit brittle, so they're kind of hard to install. So you got to be careful whenever you're installing them,
Okay.
because they can break. But once you get it in, oh, this one kind of, there you go.
So this one you did just right at the...
Yeah, right at this.
Like at 7 o'clock,
Yeah,
I
like
guess, right?
kind of like at 7 o'clock, or like,
Okay.
yeah, 7 o'clock. So this one will be at 7 o'clock here, and then the other one will be installed 180 degrees, so it'll be right at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So the same thing, and this one will be above this ring here. So oops. So where this one's at, as you can see, the oh, I lost the gap. There it is. So there's the gap. So again, right there. So you want to go 1 o'clock. So just kind of use your fingers to guide yourself. Install it on the top side of this ring, on the bottom one, on the scraper, and then you feed it again all the way around. You kind of bring it, and there it is.
All right.
Now the bottom oil rings are installed, and these just kind of help it keep it from getting loose, because that spring ring is kind of flimsy.
Yeah.
So these two are installed, so we're good now.
So it's slightly different than the old Chevy blocks, right?
Yeah.
There was a certain way we'd do all the rings.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a certain way. I know a lot of them are pretty similar, but they're installed differently.
Okay.
So
See, I'm not too familiar with the LS.
yeah.
We used to do 350s, the old stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm learning as well on this stuff
Yeah.
right here.
So as you can see here, these are packaged. They all came in different packages. These 2 rings were on one package, and then the spring ring was in its own package. So this is the number 2 groove. And you gotta install these in order. So you always start with the bottom groove, because these expand a little different and they're a little bit harder. They got more tension on them. So now, since we installed this ring, at 1 o'clock, this one's at 7. This one's and the notch is at 9 o'clock. So you want to install this one 90 degrees from this notch that you installed last. So again, be very careful when you're installing these. Oh, another thing, I almost forgot. This one here is marked, the second groove ring has to be installed a certain way. It says top on there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you can see, there it is. So it says top, so that means to the top of the piston. So again, install it 90 degrees from this last notch. So we'll be putting it in. And again, be very careful and try not to scrape the side of the piston. So I've heard when you do that, it'll mess up the cylinder wall as well. So you can just kind of pull on it a little bit, not too much, but just enough to get it in there. Again, use your little cross. If your piston has this cross on it, you can use it as a guide as well, where everything's going to line up. So there's the second ring already installed with the top notch, which says top
notch
to the top of the piston.
And then you went about 5 o'clock?
Yeah, this is about 5 o'clock right here.
Okay.
We'll move on to the last ring, which is the top ring. This one doesn't have a specific way to go. It can go either way. And again, on certain brands, certain setups that they have, they'll have like a beveled edge on them, and it'll say that usually says the beveled edge goes down, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It's just depending on the brand, but it'll tell you whenever you get it. This one will be 180 degrees from its notch. So when you install it, again, press it in there slowly and kind of just guide it in again. And just slowly pull on the ring. And boom, there it is. It's installed.
All right, so that was just 180 from the last one, right?
Yeah, from the last ring
Okay.
over. So if you ever want to learn a little bit more stuff, you know, if you're a DIY guy like a lot of us want to be, and it's always good to buy a manual like this, you know. This is a Chilton book that I borrowed from a buddy of mine based on this motor, 99 through 06. They're all the same style motor. A lot of them have different specs according to what you're building. So as you can see here, I got some of these marked already to help. Let's see. So this is the page right here where it shows you how to install these rings. As you can see, the lower O-ring rail gap D, that would be the first one. Now it doesn't show the spring ring because, you know, that usually a lot of times you just put that anywhere, but I've always told to put it at the bottom. And the arrow is the notch, as I was saying, so it's at 9 o'clock shown here. Okay, so your first ring will be D, and then C is 180 degrees, and then your second ring, your compression ring, will be at B, which is 90 degrees from C. So you're going backwards basically. And then your first ring will be at A.
That's right. And your first ring being the very top one of the piston,
very
right?
top, yes sir. The very
Okay.
top. So there's that part right there. I already prepped this one with some assembly lube, as you can see here.
Oh, yeah.
So when you put your bearings in, and I'll show you how to do that on that one here in a minute. You always want to lube it because you don't want to turn the crank with dry, yeah, because you'll ruin it. You'll ruin it. And it doesn't look like you will, but you'll ruin it. I've seen it. So what I do is I'll put assembly lube on here with some guidance from a friend as well. He says not to lube it over this. You got to go at least 1/4 of an inch down.
Okay.
Because if you get fluid or any kind of lube in between here and the rod, it will spin a bearing. It's happened many times to a lot of folks that have done this. And I heard it from a lot of race car builders that it's gonna happen. So you always want to be careful when you're lubing these.
So you don't want any lube between the bearing and
the rod.
Yeah,
rod. Okay. Because if you get anything in there, you're basically you're separating it. This is like a separator. That's how it works. It's
and all this has a specific clearance on, like on when it's all put together.
Yeah, and right now I'm working with standard clearance. This is standard sizes. I'm not familiar with the standard size on the rod and the bearings and all that stuff. So yeah, this is a certain way to do it. Again, on the bottom cap as well. So you can see here, I'm a little bit underway. I'm a little bit over here, but it's okay. You can always wipe it off to keep that from happening. Okay. So you don't need a lot of lube. You just need enough to film it just to make a clearance. All right, so now I got this installer here that I borrowed from a buddy as well. It's always good to lube it. I got a light film of oil on it just so it'll slide through real easy. So what I do is I'll get the piston and always put your dot. I'll show you that here in a minute, but you always want to put your dot facing toward the engine. But when you put your piston in, put it in carefully. So these piston rings are not going to allow you to put it in. So you just kind of like work them in a little bit, as you can see here. Kind of work it, and then you slide your piston in. Nice. And then you get it as far down as you can until your skirts show. And the reason why you do that is, we'll come over to the engine real quick. Right. You don't want the rings to come through, as you can see here, because you want the rings to stay compressed as you're sliding it in. Now again, your dot facing forward.
To the front, right?
Yeah, to the front of the engine.
So we're going to install a cylinder 2. Piston
cylinder 2, yes. This is piston number 2. Cylinder 2. Okay, so before I move it forward on that, you want to put a little bit of oil on the cylinder and make sure your cylinders are clean too. As you can see here, this one's a little bit clean, or not a little bit, a lot clean.
A lot.
So you always want to lube it. Now when you lube it, the rings are going to get a hold of that oil and push it down. So I just got this container here. What I do is I'll put some oil along my finger. Just kind of like, and just kind of rub it in there. And you don't need to lube the whole cylinder, because it's gonna push all the oil down once the piston gets back in there.
So just what your finger can
reach?
Just
what your finger can reach. Just kind of do that.
And then, I know it sounds kind of repetitive, but I just repeat to make sure for if you're not sure how to.
Yeah.
That way, I'm asking them again just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yes.
Including myself, because I haven't done this kind of stuff in a while, so I'm refreshing my memory right now.
So when installing a piston, always get you a soft handle, soft hammer, or dead blow, or whatever they call them. And you get your piston. You don't want this touching the cylinder wall, so you want to go in as carefully as you can. Get your piston lined up into the cylinder here. All right, cool. So now the skirt's in, and come along over here. So you always want to make sure, keep your notch perpendicular to your edge here. You can see it, and if you got a good eye, you'll know.
You're talking about this
little notch here,
right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can see it on the other pistons here. They're all facing forward. Okay. Now you want to use the end of the hammer, and you can use a wood hammer too. Just barely tap it. Just kind of make sure this is all the way down, seating real good, and you just hit it. And there it is. It's in. Now we move on to the next step. What I can do too is kind of bring the block over a little bit. Kind of keep it level to the floor as well. It might not be that level, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
And you want to come down here, and as you're tapping this in, you'll see, oh, block's coming.
You're moving it.
Yeah. So I'll bring it back this way just to here.
So you just want to kind of guide it so it doesn't bang on your crank?
Yeah, you don't want it to hit the balancers or the weights on the crankshaft, and you kind of want to guide it as well. All right, and there's that one. Once you're done there, then you just flip your engine over. All right, set this here. So another thing I forgot to mention, make sure your journals are clean. Make sure they don't have trash on them. I did clean this one before we started. So always make sure these are clean, there's no trash, because the clearance on these things is like thousandths of an inch. I mean, you're talking like the size of a hair. I mean, it's small. So any little bitty trash that's in here will ruin that cap, or it will ruin the bearing.
The bearing.
So yeah. All right, let me get this bearing cap right quick. Now, there is a certain way, a lot of these pistons and rods, or the rods mainly, you cannot change this cap to another rod. It will not fit. And the reason why, when these are made, they break them. You can see how this one's broken. When this was broken off of this rod, it has to be matched up to this rod only. So, and they only go on a certain way as well. As you can see here, this edge is rounded and it's square off right here. So you got to put it on the same way. See how it's squared off here and then it's rounded? This is the way you want to put it on. Okay, so
got it.
What I do is I'll tighten them by hand first. Get them all the way down. And I'll show this process on the next rod before we take that one off or apart and clean it. So we'll get this on, and if you don't have a torque wrench, you can actually buy these like at Lowe's or Home Depot. O'Reilly sells them. I think they rent them out too if you don't want to buy one. These are real cool to have. Now on the book, I went over it. This is supposed to be at 15 pound-feet or foot-pounds like a lot of us say. So it's already set at 15. So you just do like increment turns. So I'll do like a little turn here, and then this one a little turn.
That way it goes down evenly?
Yeah, that way it goes down evenly. You don't want it to be too tight on one side and then not too tight on the other.
Right.
And then you'll see the torque wrench click right here.
Oh yeah.
So, and then just to make sure it's all the way down. Now, these are torque to yield, and torque to yield means once you get it to its first torque setting, then you got to do an angle torque. So, and I have a torque wrench for that, so I'll show you out here how to do that in a minute.
And the torque to yield, once you use it once, you can't reuse them, right?
You can actually, on certain blocks you can't. On certain ones you can. Yeah, and these are reusable. Okay. I actually asked a friend of mine. He said these are reusable.
All right, because that would be a question I would have. So I'm asking for myself as well in case I ever needed that. Yeah. Because I know some of the engines we worked on were torque to yield bolts, and they said do not reuse, but I wasn't sure. Yeah. What you can and can't.
And the dealership I worked for, I learned that on a lot of the newer engines, a lot of the bolts you couldn't reuse them again. Like this bolt on the new engine, you can't reuse it again. You can reuse this one for 3rd gen LS. You just got to torque it a different way. So now, always make sure this doesn't move up and down. As you can see, it's not moving up and down. The clearance is just right, but it's able to move side to side. That's okay. Yeah. That's no biggie there. Once you put the other rod in, you'll have your little bit of slack there, but that's okay right there. All right, now we move on to the other piston and the rod. All right. All right, so these right here are the bearings. Now, a while ago when I was talking about making sure everything's clean, you want to make sure these are clean too, because these do come old from the factory that makes them. Okay. So
yeah, they can have a little bit of dirt or something. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. And they'll have a little bit of a film on them or something. So again, as you can see here, this belongs to this rod. So, and when you're working with pistons and rods, one at a time, every time. Do one piston at a time. Don't take them all apart and then you go back to putting them together and you mix them up, and it becomes a mess after that. So A lot of times too, you can always mark them. Get you some paint markers, different colors, and mark them. That way you'll know which
we used
one
to mark
where.
them because we used to mark them 1-1.
Yeah.
And we'd mark it here.
Yeah.
And then on the other side.
Exactly. And a lot of older mechanics will tell you that. Make sure you mark your rods. So, but me, I like to work on one at a time because I'm that kind of guy that will mix something up accidentally, and it's happened before. Anybody will tell you that it has happened. Sorry, let me get my cleaning rag real quick.
All right. Man, it's been a while since I've messed with this kind of stuff.
Me too, man. This is honestly it's been a while for me.
I put some engines together lately, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to mess with this part. It was just camming, heads, you know, that kind of stuff. The intake, of course. But so this has been a while for me on LS. This is the first time.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't really messed with LS pistons. I'm learning as well, just like everybody else.
All right. So like I said, clean these real well. They just have a light film of oil on them, just to keep them from rusting, which these aren't really, they don't really rust. I think a lot of these are aluminum now, so they won't really rust, but just to keep contaminants and stuff off of them, like dirt and stuff. They do that for that reason.
See, and me, I like, when I'm going to do something, I look up on YouTube as well, and sometimes I don't find anyone who actually shows you step by step, and they just kind of assume you know the stuff, and sometimes you do not.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to find another video, and I watch another video till I kind of piece it all together.
Exactly.
And then, so this way it's all in one, and you can just get it done if you need to.
Now this piston did sit out. I had already cleaned a lot of these prior to this video, but I'm going to clean it again just because you never know what little bit of trash is floating around. So just kind of go over it a little bit again. Make sure there's no oil, there's no dirt. Same thing on the bottom one. Make sure there's no oil or dirt. Just kind of go over it again, just like that. And then there's notches on these rods. There's 2 notches, all right? And the reason for these notches is for these rod bearings. They have a little notch on them as well. You want to line them up with that notch. You can see right here. And evenly press on it. You'll get it in there. Make sure this notch lines up with it, and boom. And it's in. It looks like it's pretty even on there. If it's not, you can press one side and it'll slide over. But once you get it in there, it's staying in there. It's not going anywhere. Now, same thing with the bottom, with the cap. You're gonna line up your notch. Oops. Line up your notch with the one on the rod, and it's evenly pressed down, and there it is. Again, you can see right here where it's kind of like popped out, so you just kind of press on it. It's good to go. Once you have that on, then move on to assembly lube.
What kind do you use?
What
do you like?
Well, I just bought one. This is the STA lube. This is assembly lube.
All right.
It's moly and graphite, which, you know, somebody told me that I could use this. It wasn't going to hurt it, so.
Sounds good. That way, in case someone doesn't really know about that either. So,
and there's different kinds out there. There's different kinds that people use. What I will do is I'll put a little dot on my finger. And the reason why is, like I said, you don't want a heavy film on here. You just want a light film. So just kind of, see, I got a little bit right there. Just kind of clean it off. Because again, you don't want this in between the bearing and the rod. And there it is.
Just a light film.
Just a light film, nothing heavy. The reason why you want a light film is this will spew out once you bolt it into the rod journal, or into the crank journal, I'm sorry. And you don't want it to get in here again, because it will get into the sides. So just kind of do a light film, and there it is.
All right.
So there's that part. We'll go ahead and install this one as well. And the rings were already installed on this one prior to the whole deal, so we'll go ahead and get it ready. Let me put some oil on this installer right quick.
It's exciting, man. I like working on engines. I just haven't. I don't do it very often.
Yeah, I know.
And this has been a long time, so this is pretty cool. My dad used to do all this stuff as a kid, and
it's fun. If you
brings back memories.
Yeah, I know. And I did my first engine back in college when I took this course, and it was fun. I enjoyed it very much. But if you have the patience for it, man, go for it. Do it. There's a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of research on how to do some of this stuff. If you want to do a basic daily driver engine up to racing engines, always find a guy too, man. There's a guy out there that knows tons about this stuff. The guy I've been talking to, his name is Michael Jordan. Down to earth guy. He's been guiding me a lot on a lot of this stuff, and he actually has a race truck he's building right now. He's like, "Are you building a race car? Are you building a daily?" And I'm like, "I'm daily." So he just gives me what I need to know. He tells me what I need to buy, where to buy it, budget wise, and he's helped me out a lot, and I appreciate him. I just want to give him a shout out for this. So nice. It's fun. If you don't think you can do it, ask a friend. They'll help you. Somebody around your area is going to help you. They're going to want to help you because they like to do stuff like this. So it's always good to have a friend that knows what they're doing.
And when you put it together and you hear it crank up for the first time, man, you're like, dang, I put that together, and it's just a feeling like no other.
All right, so I want to lube this again since the last piston scraped it off. So what I'll do is I'll kind of get my finger in there a little bit, get a little bit of oil, and just kind of work it around the tool. As you can see here, it's just a light film. You don't want it heavy, you know what I mean? You don't want it dripping. Same thing on the cylinder. So let me come back over here. Put this back down here right quick. Rotate the engine. So we are installing the last piston, which is piston number 1.
Which the number 2 was the one that was broken, right, Efren?
Yes,
that's
number 2 was broken.
Rod was broken.
Yes, okay. It was broken.
And you did the same thing. You put new rings on everything.
All the pistons
prior to today. So we're just left 2 of them just to show everybody how he did it, and so everybody can kind of see.
Yes. All right. So again, put some oil on your finger. Just kind of get a little bit on there, and then again, work it around the cylinder, the top part. All right, and you'll see it's got a little light film around in there, and we'll install it. Again, here, I'll show you again how this, as you can see here, that second ring, the compression ring is already in on this side, but it's not on this side, so you just kind of like work it in there. See how it slides in real quick?
Yeah.
Here's the top ring, same thing. Push it in, slowly guide it down. Again, you don't want the bottom ring to show, you just want the skirt to show, okay? So, all right, I'll bring this over here. And again, you want the notch facing to the front of the engine. So you slide this in very carefully. Okay, make sure your tool's flat. Make sure your notch is as straight as you can get it. Kind of eyeball it and watch it. 1 to 10. And there it is. It's in. Now, why I say you need to keep this flat is because if it is a little bit off, a ring can come out. And if you keep hitting it, you can break a ring. And you'll ruin the piston as well. So you don't want to do that. All right. So back to the last part of this.
Same procedure as the first one?
Same procedure as the first one. Just kind of.
So he's going to guide it in.
And you'll see the rod here in a minute. You see it?
It's coming.
And there it is. It's all the way in. And then we'll put the cap back on it. Just a rule of thumb when you're doing work like this, it's always good to have a buddy with you to help you hit the piston down, and you can guide it. A lot of times too, to hold the engine, because you want to leave the engine kind of loose to be able to rotate it whenever you need to. All right, again, make sure your journals are clean. Same thing again, make sure your rods are the same. You got it squared off here and you got it beveled over here, so you want to match this up exactly. And tighten everything down by hand again. Just make sure you get it as tight as you can, you know. There you go. And then torque wrench.
So now when you torque it down to the 15, you said since they're torque heeled, you still have to do something else to it, right?
Yes, I have to do an angle torque.
Okay.
And I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. So again, slow turns. And then you'll feel the click here in a minute. Right there. There's the click. And these are all torqued at 15 pounds right now. I did all of these in order. Well, according to the crank, I did 7 and 8 first, and then I went to 5 and 4, or 5 and 6, I'm sorry, and then 3 and 4, and then 1 and 2. So the way I put them in is the way I'm gonna keep torquing them until I'm done. I'm gonna turn the crank to get rods 7 and 8 back up.
Get them up where you can get to them? Okay.
And there they are right there. Okay, so here in the book, I had this page saved for that reason. So, general engine overhaul procedures. I'm on the connecting rod, cap bolts or nuts, and these are bolts. Some of them, they have the nuts on them. So this is a V8 engine, second design, and the reason I know it's a second design, this bolt right here has a little notch in it, and it actually keeps the bolt from falling out of the cap. So that's what I have here, the second design. So, second design, step 1, 15 pounds.
Done.
Yeah, that's done. Step 2, you're gonna turn an additional 75 degrees. So let me get my other wrench out right quick.
Yeah, I remember the ones that just had the nuts. We'd have to put some rubber. We put some rubber little deals so they wouldn't bang on the crank.
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and actually these, there's a kit out there. You can actually put the little bolts. They're like rods. You put the rods in and you put some rubber hoses over.
Okay.
To do the same thing.
Same thing, just to kind of guide it.
Yeah, well, of course, you know, I don't have none of that. And I got my little friend here. It's already set up for 75 degrees. And we move forward. So, again, start with the one you installed first, which is number 8. Number 8 is the one I installed first. And you'll see the indication here on the tool. So you'll go. There we go.
Okay.
1 degree over, but it's fine. Okay. All right, there we go.
So that's how you do it.
That's how you do it. Same thing on number 7. There we go. Again, it went a little degree over, but it's fine. It's no big deal.
So it shows you on the little screen where you're at, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll see it. You can follow it. That way you can see.
Yeah, let's see that.
There we go.
Cool.
There we go.
Okay.
There's
so
2.
just so we don't make this video way long, he just did these. He's gonna just rotate, do these. We're just gonna go all the way to the front. And we'll be back shortly. All right, so getting to the last one. Right, Efren?
Yep. Yes, sir. All right, that's good. Okay. Okay.
Well, I said last one, but it's last set because it's the last two.
The last 2 cylinders. There we go. We're done.
That's the tortilla bolts, right?
Tortilla bolts.
There it is.
We're done with that part. Finally.
Right?
All right, guys. Time to put the cam in. Here it is. Sloppy Stage 2, courtesy of 806 Rebel Racing, West Texas.
That's right. Y'all go check out his page as well. He's got some videos up.
Yeah. He's also got an LS Swap C10 in there with a Stage 3. And it sounds mean, so
nice.
Give it a like, man. Y'all check it out.
And you don't have the tool, right? But for people that don't have it?
Yeah. This is what I did. I actually took the water pump bolts and just stuck them on the end here. As you can see.
That'll work.
And it just helps you guide it in a little bit better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, trying to put some without it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
You can't almost.
Yeah, it's really hard to put it in without a tool or anything. All right, so now we're gonna lube this thing up. And on this one, what I'll do is I'll put a little dab here and there. Put them on all the lobes. And once we get everything pretty much ready for lube. Now, normally I wear gloves, but not today. So what I'll do is kind of just run some of this lube through the lobes a little bit. And the reason you want to do that is because when you're sliding it in, these can get caught on the cam bearings. And you don't want to mess up any of the bearings. Or even the cam. You don't want to mess the cam up, period, either. So just kind of, again, like we did the rod bearings, just do a light film all the way around. Rotate it. Just like that.
A lot of people cam, and
yeah, do.
This is what they do.
Yeah, and a lot of them do it for performance or whatever, you know. And I'm just doing mine for sound. I'm not really. I like performance. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a budget kind of guy, and I don't like to spend a lot of money. So one day maybe, but we'll see. All right, now there's the cam. It's ready to go in. So,
all lubed up.
All lubed up and ready to go. So what we do now is you slide it in slowly. Just kind of these sit a little bit. Sometimes these kind of are a little bit higher, but you just kind of work it in and it'll make its way in.
You have to remember there's cam bearings along the block.
Yeah.
So there's cam bearings back. So everyone you pass one and you just gotta lift it up a little bit and get into the next one.
Yep.
All the way back.
And that's where this comes in.
Yeah,
it helps
so
a lot.
you.
It helps a lot. So, and boom, there we are. Once you get it in, spin it a little bit, get that lubrication in there, kind of work it in with the bearings and stuff. Okay, and it's done.
So now you're just removing the bolts, right?
Yeah, right now I'm removing the bolts. I believe it's the same as the small blocks. As long as this dot right here, you can see it.
Oh yeah.
There's a dot. You want to make sure that's at 12 o'clock on the block.
Yep. He's talking about that dot right there, just like the old blocks used to have.
That dot will be at 12 o'clock. Cylinder 1 will be at top dead center.
Which is this one right here, guys.
Yep. Okay. Once you have your crank lined up, next step is you'll bring your cam sprocket so this is the back side. This will go toward the cam. There's a notch for this little dowel pin right here. So you'll put that notch on that dowel pin. Let's see. There it is. Okay, once you have that in, then there's also a dot on the sprocket. You see it right there. You want to line the cam up 6 o'clock with your dot on 12 o'clock on the crank.
2 dots will
these
match
two
each other.
Yeah, and the reason for that is for timing. This cam has to be in time with the crank because every one of these cylinders has to be in time with your injectors, with your coil packs, everything. And if they're not in time, this engine will not run. And if it does run, it's gonna run like crap.
Yep. Yeah.
So
definitely.
It's always about timing on all the engines. They all run on time. Some of them run on a higher advanced time. Some run on a retarded time, and it just kind of, just depends what you're running. It just all depends what you're doing. Again, this is a stock build, so we're not doing nothing too radical on it. All right, once you get these lined up, your dowel will stay where it's supposed to be. Take your sprocket back off. And you'll get your chain. Put your chain on, just like that. You get your bolts. Or, I missed a step, I'm sorry. Just now realized that. We need to put our cam holder in first.
That's right. The old ones didn't used to have that, but
yeah, a lot of them didn't.
The Vortex did, and then now these.
Yeah, so this is a real crucial step. Do not forget this, because you will need to. This actually keeps your cam from moving around, because these do have a little bit more clearance than your small blocks did. So once you put this bad boy in.
And turn on your little flashlight so I can see just a little bit. Come on, right
there you go.
Just to have a little bit more light on here.
Yeah. These are set to a spec as well, and I already memorized that, so we don't have to worry. These are set for 18 pound-feet or foot-pounds, however you want to say it. All right, so let me get my torque wrench out quick. All right, so here we go. 18 foot-pounds. So again, just kind of do a even tight, just kind of evenly tighten it all the way around. And come back to this one. Click, click, click. There we go. All right, once that's on, you're ready to go.
All right.
All right. All right. Okay, sprocket, chain. So what you'll do is you'll get your chain back on here.
Just put it on the bottom sprocket, right?
Yeah, you're gonna put it on the bottom sprocket.
And then you try to line it up.
And then line it up with your cam. Okay. Start one bolt. Okay, now we got one bolt. Should be good now.
Sometimes if you can't get it to line out, sometimes you're one tooth off one way or the other.
Yeah, and
you can move it until that lines up for you.
These are scared. This is a tooth off.
Is it?
As you can see, it moved here.
Oh yeah, the dot's a little bit off. Yeah. That's true.
Okay, so we need to fix that.
Okay. Yeah, you can see these 2 dots. They're not matching. They're not like pointing directly at each other.
Yeah. So it's very, very critical that y'all watch that every time. Put this back on again. Line it back up. Okay, we're lined up right there.
And all he's doing is just lining up them dots one more time because they move slightly.
Okay, and put your chain back on. There it goes again. Right there. There it is. Dot to dot. Get the bolt back on there. Okay. And we move forward from there.
There we go.
It's time to torque down the sprocket onto the cam. This is at 26 foot-pounds. And I don't have a flex plate and I don't have anything to hold the crank, so we're just gonna put a screwdriver on that retainer and the sprocket, as you can see there.
There's the bolt back there. We're gonna see if we can hold it for him.
Yeah. And there's 1, 2, 3, and it's always good to go back over it. Make sure you don't have one that gets loose, because it'll happen sometimes, you know. Okay, cam is done, chain is in, all the pistons are re-ringed and done, everything's tightened down, all torque to yield is ready to go. The rotating assembly is done at this point.
Nice.
Sometimes a little bit of hard work, dirty hands, and you know, just that mindset to do it. You learn a lot of stuff along the way, and it's awesome.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you ever put any Loctite on these, or that just tightening torquing is good?
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. I was supposed to put Loctite on these and I forgot.
Okay.
Do put Loctite on these. You don't have to put anything like red, because red that's too much. Blue Loctite is perfect. So I will be taking these back out here later.
And just putting Loctite and doing the same
and doing the same
process.
thing. Yes, just do the same process. A lot of you, there's a lot of guys out there that will probably judge me on this, but I do like to torque all my stuff down. Reason why is if there's a torque spec for it, use it, especially on something like this part. It's very critical, because you never know.
Yeah.
I actually had a friend tell me that he did all his rod bolts, he torqued them. He missed one piston. He did not do the angle degree on it, and that piston did fly out. He was using it on a race car engine. So it is important. There's some guys out there are like, nah, I don't do that. It is good to do it. It's good to keep that trait on you, because you never know. You just never know. And being that this is my budget build, I want it to last. So I'm gonna do everything I can to torque everything down. Yeah. Everything. Even the intake. I took my intake. Yeah, I took my intake down. That's light. That's light specs, but I do it anyway, because I'm a big firm believer that everything should be snugged down equally, because you can have a leak. You never know. Yeah. I mean,
and me, I torque it because I don't know if I tightened it too much or if I didn't do enough, and then I'm kind of worried, so I just do that, and then it's exactly like it should be. It's
crucial, man. A lot of people don't take it seriously, but it really is. It's a crucial thing to do when it comes to engine building. Nice. But here it is, the 5.3 liter. Now next is lifters, which I could do a little quick demo on that real quick. It won't take long. So when I bought this kit, it came with lifters already. I got 14 soaking right now in oil. It's best to soak them, I say maybe 24 hours before you install them. But I left 2 out just for a quick demo. So the way you install these, here's your little tray keeper. There's a certain way, as you can see how it's squared off here. You're gonna put your square end where this little retainer is. That's where your push rod goes. So you're gonna put your square in with that. And this kind of temporarily holds it while you install them. Let me see, there we go. So these kind of keep them locked in place. Once you put these in here, then you can slide them in, like so, into the ports that they go in. You slide it in and then you bolt it down, which I'm not going to put them in because then I'm going to have this problem where they'll get stuck in there. Yeah. So, yeah. And these go in before the heads do. Trust me, you don't want to leave these out. Yeah. So.
Yeah, those are the ones that push rod up and down.
Yep, this is your valve opener. So you might want to put those in first before anything. All right. Other than that, the heads are basically built. I did not do any head work to them. The valves were pretty clean when I took them apart. The valves came, or the springs came with the kit as well. So all that was installed and done. Just got to clean them up a little bit. All right. Call it a day after that.
Well, there's all that today. That was pretty cool right there. And hadn't done any of this, or of course I didn't do it, but hadn't been around this. We've done some, but it's been a long time. So just refresh your memory a little bit as well. Yeah. Me as well. Learn a little bit. Yeah. That's all for today. I know it's going to be a little bit long video, but if someone's doing it, they could actually follow it and step by step. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for some more videos. And we'll see y'all the next time.
See ya, guys.